Hello, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today, stop chunking and blading your wedge shots around the green. We'll give you some real techniques that will help you with this. There's one key fault that leads to both chunking and thinning. I'll show you that. We'll get into some stuff about lies a little bit, and at the end, we'll touch on distance control. We're talking wedges fairly near the green. Thin. All the way across the green, then you chunk one. So what's the problem? How can they be related to each other? Well, low point or bottom out point is too far behind the ball. Let's examine this closely for a minute or so, and we'll get out and work on it, see if we can sort it out. So what happens is the golfer reaches the bottom of their arc or the low point prematurely. You may not get a full-fledged chunk that way, but you're going to hit the ground first. Frequently, you'll be starting your upswing and go into the middle of the ball. And usually when a golfer hits behind it, they instinctively adjust and fight that. Lots of skull shots as well. Let's quickly look slow motion how it should look. We'll get out and work on it. So ball a little bit back, a little bit of wrist cock. Here we come. Low point beyond the golf ball. A little bit of shaft lean, weight left. Low point beyond the ball before the club starts to come up. So let's start with setup first, then we'll look at swing. Definitely you want the ball back of your body center, for sure there. Not too far back, you don't want it way, way back. You start creating excessive shaft lean, but you want it back, maybe in step of the back foot or opposite this pec muscle. Next thing, a common thing I see people do is excessively forward press the hands and actually tilt their torso this way. That is a big no-no. That is going to influence your bottom out point. So feel tall on the right side, feel high. I may not be quite level, but I don't want a lot of tilt. And with that ball position, you'll have some forward press. So next features, this would be my normal distance from the ball for, say, a full sand wedge. I'm definitely going to get closer quite a bit. It will require shortening up on the club slightly, even getting the club a little bit taller. What's the reason for these adjustments? When I'm closer to the ball, the club stays more on a straight line. When I'm farther from the ball and I pivot a bit, it tends to go more around me. Now, you're not going to hit the ball very far in a full swing if you go in a straight line. So here's a case where we need this pivot and this depth in our swing. But remember this, as a rule, the more out to in you swing, not saying you should swing out to in, but the bottom out point is always much more forward than in to out. So when you make these little shots, you don't have time to move and recover. You need to build in a pretty darn straight backswing. It'll float off the ground a bit more, and getting closer to it helps you do that. Let's have a little shot here. There we go. Let's have a look at the stroke from here. So as for the stroke itself, keep that right side high. Don't let the right side get in. Don't let the right knee for the right-handed golfer collapse like that. You have to keep your height. Remember, we're hitting fairly well down on it now because that backswing's coming up off the ground and staying on the target line. So we don't want anything that makes us get lower. And I would open up the club face a little bit. You'll have to trial and error it. Use the bounce a little bit. You don't want the front edge digging in. You could get a nasty result there if you hit just behind it. Other things, don't turn too much. Just rock a little bit. If anything, feel like your axis is going this way a little bit. And maybe avoid too much wrist cock. There's been some great ones. Phil Mickelson obviously cocks his wrist a lot. He's brilliant at it. But generally, unless you need the speed, I'd have moderate wrist cock. Let's try one here. That was nicely struck off the ground. Stayed high as I went through it. Let's look at distance control for a minute. Okay, I'm a little bit farther back now, maybe 30 yards. So we talk about distance control. While we're on the subject, I'm in a slightly different light to get this long a shot than that tight stuff I was on. I actually prefer that a little bit. It's a little bit more forgiving. But many times you'll get into stuff, especially up north, where it's taller than the ball and the ball's sitting down in there. There's a link in the description box below this video to a video I did specifically on that at a golf course up north recently that has some nice lush rough. I hope you'll check that out if you want to get into that. In terms of tight lies, a bit like we had there, they're just tougher. There's no real easy way to get around it. They're just more difficult and require more precision. If you can use a little bit less loft, it's easier though if the situation allows for it. So let's go back to our distance control. Consistent contact is by far the biggest controller of distance. So once you have consistent contact and trajectory, you pretty much are going to have an easy time reasonably getting distance control. But let's assume that's the case. Here's one little parting thought for you on the small ones. If it's tick-tock on a small one, this is going to go short of the hole, tick-tock. As you get longer, stay to that, just add energy throughout so it becomes more tick-tock. The swing gets more powerful, more energetic. I hope these ideas help you. Well worth working on. These are critical shots.